Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we have the best, in my opinion, Spider Hard solo champion and the stage to do it on. So a while back, a few weeks ago, somebody was commenting on my channel saying that in the Hell Hades Optimizer, there was a person running a duo of Arix and Deliana for stage 10 of Spider Hard. This team seemed super cool. I mean, it's a free champion Arix and then a past fusion champion, a past login champion Deliana, and it worked. It worked flawlessly, and I threw on a Rathalos set with Arix. In that video, I mentioned that Arix, I believe, is a champion, one of the very few, if not the only champion who could solo Spider. I didn't quite have the gear done at the time. I didn't think I did, and I didn't try it out. So after a little bit of testing, after a little bit of tweaking stuff, I actually have Arix now soloing Spider 9 Hard. Now, I know Nubs did a video yesterday, actually, of somebody who shared their account with him and was doing stage 10 Hard solo. Now, that's awesome. That's great. If that's what you prefer to do, go for it. However, the big difference between the 9 Hard situation and the 10 Hard situation is on 10 Hard, you have to use presets because you have to turn off Arix's A3 ability, the ability that places the counterattack and ally protection because it wastes a turn, and the big spider either eats the spiderlings or she blasts you and kills you, and she can crit on the Void Affinity stage. However, on stage 9, she's strong affinity, so we're going to come in here. I've ran about 111 runs, 0 fails. That means it's 111% successful. It's 100% successful so far, 0 fails whatsoever, and honestly, I don't see any situation where it would fail, unless she had horrendous, absurd, unimaginably bad RNG and literally never landed a stun that translated into a leech, then there's really no situation where this is going to fail. It's an extremely consistent minute runtime. I'll show you guys the 2 screenshots I have as it runs in the background. So this screenshot right here, we have a minute and 10 second runtime on average. Oh no, sorry, it's an hour and 10 seconds. Average is a minute and 12 seconds. We have 58 runs there. And then, that's actually a different team I was going to do in a different video. That's my banner roll. But here is the other one. 53 runs, a minute 13, hour total runtime. I did 53 runs, an average of minute and 13 seconds. But you can see 100% successful. Now, what I want to do in here is jump in and break down why this works so well, why Arix is incredible for this, and kind of why other champions really just won't work for doing this. I mean, there's a lot of intricacies in her kit, specifically with her passive, that makes this so possible. So a minute and 2 seconds, it's incredible. Like I said, it's been 100% successful so far. Spider 9 Hard, no problem. So coming in here to my Arix, I already said there's no presets, which is a massive deal. Let me explain to you for a second why that's such a big deal. RSL Helper and even the in-game multi-battles, which I don't understand. I wish they would change this, but neither of the features of RSL Helper or the in-game multi-battles will come in here and change your food layout from your team presets. So if you have a preset team, say it's with 1-star champions, and you run, well, 2 runs of super raids of Spider 9 Hard, well, now all of a sudden all these champions are leveled, and you're going to have to come back to your PC, come back to your phone, whatever you're doing, and refill up the food for those things, RSL Helper or for the multi-battles. However, if you have no presets, you could load up, like I did, 60 1-star champions, and then run them all, walk away, go to the gym, go take a shower, go get some food, whatever you want to do with your life, but you can go do that, and then come back, and your champions will be cycled through, whether it's with the in-game multi-battles or with RSL Helper, actually doing the swap outs for you. So you can see I did one thing of multi-battles already, and now we're about to do a second thing of multi-battle, second thing of super raid, so it's essentially 4 runs from those 2 runs that I've actually done, but that should take all these champions to max level. If this was a preset team, I'd have to go in there and swap them out. Preset teams work very well if you're doing like 4-star champions, though with super raids in the game, if you're using those, it's kind of more difficult because time-wise, well, I'm not going to get into all that. It doesn't really matter. If you have your preference, if you want to use the presets for 10 Hard, check out Nubs' video. If you want to use the solo strategy with no presets, follow the instructions for this Arix right here. So there we go. 2 runs, well, 2 super raid runs, max level on these champions. We're done. Super easy stuff, especially with the Lover's Path going on. Makes it pretty simple. So how is my Arix built? Well, she is built with Rathalos set. To be honest, you're going to need Rathalos set. The reason why is because Rathalos set, specifically the 4-piece set, you don't need a 6-piece set, though you can see ignores 30% of enemies' defense. I haven't tested it without the 6-piece set, though I'm pretty confident if you have very hard-hitting, good HP, and good crit damage, you should be able to do it still, even without the 30% defense ignore. But if you can't make a 6-piece, you have to make a 4-piece, because a 4-piece fills his champion's turn meter about 5% for each enemy hit by AoE attacks. That is a significant boost. However, that doesn't mean that any AoE champion could do what Arix does, because Arix's passive also fills this champion's turn meter by 5% each time an ally inflicts a critical hit. Now, she counts as an ally, so whenever she inflicts a crit, she's boosting her turn meter by 5%. You have, 10 little spiderlings on a full map? Well, if it's boosting by 50%, because she's 100% crit rate, essentially, and then boosting it from the Rathlo set by an extra 5%, so she essentially is wearing the benefits of 2 Rathlo set from her passive plus this. She's getting 100% turn meter boost. That's how she's taken so many turns back to back to back, which makes this actually work. Does not mean any champion with AoE skills and a leech could also work, unfortunately, unless their speeds were like crazy high. You can see here, her speeds really aren't high. So let's go to Spider specifically. I do have some area bonuses. I'll show you guys my live arena bonuses tab in a minute, but you can see all the bonuses I'm getting on the side. But 96,000 HP. This is what I'm testing with. You guys can test it with lower, maybe even higher, but whatever you can do, try to make it to where, of course, she can survive. HP is very important. Defense is important to survive the hits. If you can get more and you have to sacrifice some HP, that should be fine as well. I have quite a bit of ascensions that I can do. This would be awesome at crit damage, but defense is really fine. Though I kind of want to switch it to crit damage, HP percentage, or possibly even crit rate. But either way, I'm getting a little bit off topic there. We'll dive into some of that stuff later on. So good HP. Shoot for 85,000 plus. Defense, I would rather have like 3,000 if you could, but just kind of switch those interchangeably. So like if you drop your HP, boost up your defense until about 4,000 max, and then if you drop your defense, make sure you have quite a bit of HP. HP is super important because that's what she does damage off of anyways. The speed is 223. Now, with that said, you don't have to be super fast. I believe if you're like 200 speed, you're probably fine, but I wouldn't recommend going below that because even though she's boosting her turn meter a ton, you still have to take quite a few turns. Her crit rate is 87%, which is fine because as long as you have 85%, you're going to land crits. She's strong affinity on stage 9 hard, so that means she has an essentially 15% extra crit rate against the Spirit Affinity Spider and Spiderlings. Now, if you're using her in things like Hydra, things like the Arena, then you need to account for that because you probably want 100% crit rate for those areas. But if you run her with an increased crit rate champion in those spots, it may not even matter. But for me, I'm only using her in Spider, specifically against the Spirit Affinity Spider, so 87% crit rate is fantastic. For crit damage, she's really not crazy, 242%, and I have an extra 15% from the area bonuses. You could probably even go a little bit lower, but I do have this 30% defense ignore, so if you don't have that, you're probably going to want to boost that up some as well. Accuracy, we have 301. You do want to make sure that you have accuracy enough to apply your debuffs to the stage you're doing. So I'm going to go to the Hell Hades Stages tool real quick to show you guys what exactly I'm talking about. So if you go to Dungeons, Spider's Den, Hard Mode, Stage 9, you're going to want to make sure, after accounting for your area bonuses, that you have at least 330 accuracy. So for me, I have 301 there. And then I guess I don't have anything extra. Let's see what the Spiderlings are. They're the same. So I actually have a little bit lower than what I actually need, but it does apply the debuff sometimes. So the goal is going to be shooting for 330. If you don't hit it exactly and you end up with 300, well, your run's still going to be 100% successful. But try to get the accuracy number up pretty high because 330 is going to be the goal for you to hit because you need to place the stun from the A2 ability, which gives you a chance of placing Leech, which I'll go into in just a moment. But our artifacts, if you guys want to see them, I need to awaken this, honestly, or ascend this, to be honest. Like, HP would be incredible, but even defense, I don't really care to re-roll it, to be honest. Defense. I'll click through the pieces so you can actually see the stats and the substats. So if you're forging your Rathalos gear, if you haven't forged it yet, forge it with Arix in mind. So I recommend doing like crit rate charms, you have your rank rarity, all that kind of stuff, of course, and then roll the pieces up and then equip them to your Arix. But keep pieces that have speed and accuracy substats that could be used on a support champion because it's actually very solid for even just support champions, but of course damage dealers as well. I have the 5-piece up top with a necklace at the bottom to finish the 6-piece set. But if you're somebody who has just full 6-piece up top, that's no problem whatsoever. You can just go full 6-piece up top and have no accessories. You may not get lucky with the faction. But her necklace is defense with crit damage roll. We have HP ring and then a accuracy banner for, of course, the accuracy to land her debuffs. Now, skills, everything's fully booked. Does it have to be fully booked? Her A1 does not need to be fully booked whatsoever. Her A2, you do want this fully booked because this A2 hits very hard, but more importantly, has a chance of placing stun, which is going to translate to a chance of placing Leech. We'll get to that in just a moment. The A3 doesn't have to be fully booked. Matter of fact, it'd actually probably be better if it was not fully booked because that would mean she would use the A1 and the A2 more frequently. So the A3, it's fine, assuming your champions in the run aren't surviving as well. If they're surviving, And then she's actually ally protection, and it's going to get wonky, which speaking of, you got to make sure you're actually slower than the spider, because if you protect the level 1 champions, your food champions, you're going to get blasted. The spider is going to kill all your champions and your arix most likely because of that ally protection. So make sure you're slower than the big spider, which her speed is 220. My arix is at 220. Is it 221, I thought? 223. So I don't know what, maybe she opened with a different skill. But either way, it worked out fine, so all's well there. But don't make her too fast because you don't want to accidentally use this. I'm not for sure exactly what conditions have to be met. I'll double check that. But either way, just be mindful. If you're too fast, if some conditions are weird, she may get killed. So be very mindful about that. And then her passive, of course, makes everything work. Heals this champion by 5% of their max HP each time an enemy inflicts a critical hit, which the enemy's not going to be hitting with any crits because being strong affinity, arix, the spider isn't going to crit her ever. Weak hits or normal hits, no crits. For the blessing, I honestly don't think you even need a blessing. I have a level 1 hero soul that gives me extra HP, which is fantastic for that. I would love it to be 3-star because I get an extra 300 defense. Actually, sorry, 600 defense, or even 4-star would be great. But definitely don't need above 4-star. And honestly, the blessing is probably not even needed anyways. However, I can't take a blessing off, I don't think. But for what it brings, I think I'm fine with what I have for her to be perfectly fine. As for the masteries, we have extra damage. Let me move my webcam over a little bit so you guys can see that. But we have basically extra damage picked up in various areas. The number one thing you have to watch out for is this right here. You have to have this. Your run will not work, as far as I'm aware, if you do not have Harvest Despair. A 60% chance of placing Leech for 1 turn when placing Stun Sleep, Fear, True Fear, Freeze, or Petrification. In this situation, Stun. What happens is she places a few leeches, she does an AoE hit, max HP, boom, done. I have Helm Smasher. Helm Smasher versus War Master, I haven't noticed a huge difference as far as the time it takes to actually do the run, so you can test that out. If you use her in things like Hydra, you may be better off using things like War Master because you're going to be doing AoE hits to the Hydra heads, and it's probably going to add up for some more damage over time. For this, I'm not for sure which one's the best, honestly. Like I said, I haven't really noticed a huge difference between War Master versus Helm Smasher, and I really don't want to spend the gems to switch it back and forth to continue to try. But you can see here, she opens with the A2. She does go before the spider, so I guess I'm covering her. I'm not arix. So obviously she doesn't open with the A3. She does, I think, use the A3 sometimes. She hasn't yet. I don't know why she's not. So if for some reason yours is using the A3 ability, which is that ally protection and counterattack, then actually let me know if she is. We can try to figure out what would cause her to do that because I'm not for sure why she isn't doing it here. But if I turn her to stage 10 hard, she will do it. So she will ally protect then, but does not ally protect here, which is very interesting because if you could make her not use the A3 ever on stage 10 hard, then it would probably be fine. But since I don't know how to do that, but you can see a lot of leeches are going up. She's full HP now. Everything's fine. There's no worries in the world, and we're just wiping out these spiderlings. But she could probably do stage 10 hard with no presets as well. It's going to be a bit more challenging because on stage 9, if the spider, doesn't die soon enough, it ends up running over the time that it should. Basically, the more spiderlings she eats, the more her attack gets boosted, and eventually she just one-shots you. And on stage 9, it's not that big of a deal because on stage 9, she's going to weak hit or neutral hit versus on stage 10, she can crit. So on stage 10, it's much more important what you're doing each turn. So here, you can see in a moment that she will place the counterattack and the ally protection. She did for me whenever I was doing it every other time. So right here. Not for sure why she does that. Versus does not do it on stage 9 hard. I don't know. Either way, if you could figure out why, maybe it's the turn meter level. Because she did it once and now she's stunned doing it. I really don't know. But it is something important, like if yours is doing it, maybe we can compare stats and do a different breakdown to see what's causing it to actually happen. Because if you could make it to where she didn't do that here, then you could probably solo this without presets as well. So something to keep in mind there. But right now it looks good. It's not going to be good though because one crit can just obliterate her HP. She's too low geared for this to work well. So she did that right there, which if she would have used the AoE stuff, it probably would have been better. It definitely would have been better. She may clear this, but don't take that as this is going to be 100%. It's not going to be because I actually done it a few times and it did fail. That hit right there was 70,000 damage. If it would have crit, we're dead. So her using that, maybe if you boosted her speed quite a bit, closer to like 250, maybe even 251, maybe that could be it. Because the spider on stage 10 hard is faster, but something to consider there. For me personally, I'm going to go with no presets. I don't want to use presets, so I'm going to go stage 9 hard. It's lower gear requirements, and if you can't even hit the gear requirements that I have, you can drop it back to 5. 5 is going to be significantly easier because 5 hard, you're going to have, much less stats, much slower speeds. You're going to have everything is going to be less. So you can have a much lower geared arix, no problem. Unfortunately, that's a problem. Your arix would need to be quite a bit slower because if she's that fast as mine, then she's going to place the ally protection and wreck herself. So it's a perfect example of arix getting wrecked even if the spider can weak hit. So Spider's Den stage 5 may prove to be difficult because it's 120 speed. So your arix could be snail slow and do 5. Like you'd actually have to be snail slow. Like you had to be extremely slow, which could be very good for players who have very poor gear. Well, poor Rathalos gear specifically. But even without Rathalos gear, you may actually be able to solo 5, honestly. But I'm doing this stuff with Rathalos specifically testing. My area bonuses for Spider are pretty decent. Mostly been putting stuff into HP just to try to help out arix, but honestly, she doesn't even need it. I was trying to make it to where she could solo 10 hard without presets, but it was just proven to be difficult. If you have a team soloing 10 hard with no presets, let me know. I'd be interested in seeing your arix's stats compared to this one. But for 9, it's going to be a lot less stat demanding. You don't have to have crazy over-the-top gear, crazy over-the-top stats. You just got to have Rathalos set. You got to have the masteries how I have them. Your books, not very specific, not very, strict as far as what books you need to have. And then you're good to go. The blessing, I really don't think she even needs it, honestly. It's going to help, especially if you want to go into 10 hard. It's definitely going to help, and you're going to need it there, I'm sure. But for this stage, she don't really need it. So guys, let me know what you think about that. Subscribe, like, drop a comment, all that kind of good stuff. Thank you all very much for watching. I love and appreciate all of you. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video.